Every day, 10 million people ride Seoul's subway without realizing what it actually is. Beneath the platforms they stand on, beneath the shopping centers they pass through, lies a secret underground network, over 3,000 reinforced shelters engineered to survive an attack from just 60 kilometers away. But the most unsettling part isn't that Seoul built all of this, it's what they discovered beneath the border that forced them to. Seoul's daily rhythm unfolds just 60 kilometers from the world's most fortified border. From the heart of the city to the edge of the DMZ, the distance is less than a morning commute. 10 million people fill the city itself. The greater metropolitan area, stretching out across Gyeonggi Province, holds 25 million, half the population of South Korea, living and working within range of artillery stationed to the north. Defense maps show that the main city lies squarely within a zone that military planners describe as impossible to evacuate. Official figures from the Ministry of National Defense list 21 North Korean artillery battalions positioned along the border, with enough firepower to reach the capital in minutes. Retired General Seung-sik, who once oversaw Seoul's civil defense, has described the city as uniquely exposed. No other capital on Earth has this many people living so close to an enemy so heavily armed. The risk is not abstract. In the event of conflict, the sheer number of civilians at risk, millions in the blast radius, transforms every subway ride, every crowded market, into a potential front line. The city's vulnerability is not just a matter of geography, but of scale. It is a humanitarian question measured in millions, not thousands, and in minutes, not hours. For residents, the threat is woven into daily life, even if it remains unseen beneath their feet. In June 1978, seismic listening posts along the DMZ detected a pattern that didn't match natural tremors. South Korean engineers drilled down and struck a void. What they found was a tunnel, 3.5 kilometers long, burrowed deep beneath the border. The passage ran more than 1 kilometer into the southern side, wide enough for 3 soldiers to walk shoulder to shoulder. Official estimates suggested it could move up to 30,000 troops per hour, an entire division, with room for equipment and artillery. The tunnel's walls were reinforced, lined with timber and fitted with ventilation shafts every few hundred meters. Water channels ran along the floor, evidence of careful engineering meant for rapid, covert movement. The discovery sent a shock through military and political circles in Seoul. Dr. Gi-wook-shin, a historian at Seoul National University, later called it the moment when an abstract threat became terrifyingly real. The tunnel was not a relic of the past, but a living reminder of how quickly war could arrive, unseen, beneath the city's feet. South Korean officials released photos showing the tunnel's blackened rock and rough-hewn supports. News reports described how seismic sensors, placed after earlier tunnel discoveries, had finally paid off, but also revealed how easily such a passage could have gone undetected. For planners, the implications were immediate. If one tunnel could deliver thousands of troops per hour, the city's entire approach to defense had to change. The underground was no longer just a place for subways and sewers, but a potential invasion route, and in response, a canvas for a new kind of protection. The engineering mandate was clear. Every new tunnel, station, or shelter would need to account for threats from below as well as above. The evidence, carved in stone beneath the DMZ, turned the city's hidden spaces into a front line. In 1975, South Korea passed the Civil Defense Law, a piece of legislation that quietly reshaped the city beneath Seoul. The law required every new public building, including subway stations, schools, and government offices, to include reinforced underground shelters. More than 3,000 such shelters now dot the city, their locations mapped in classified government registries and civil defense bulletins. Each shelter is built to withstand the pressure of a 0.5 kilogram TNT blast, a standard set by military engineers who drew up the original specifications in the shadow of the DMZ tunnel discoveries. Concrete walls, often poured to a thickness of 40 centimeters or more, are laced with high-tensile steel and mixed with fly ash to absorb shockwaves. Ventilation shafts, hidden behind unmarked doors or stairwells, can be sealed in seconds, isolating the shelter from chemical or biological threats. Retired General Kim Seung-sik, who led the Ministry of National Defense's Civil Defense Command in the late 1970s, became the chief advocate for these measures. He insisted on high-strength concrete grades, C45 to C50, for all shelter walls, and pushed for modular steel frame platforms that could be reinforced or replaced without disrupting daily subway service. Internal documents from the era describe a network of interconnected spaces, each designed to hold hundreds, sometimes thousands of people for up to 72 hours. Shelters are equipped with independent air filtration, emergency lighting, and water reserves, all tested during regular drills but rarely noticed by the public above. By the end of the 1980s, the official shelter count had surpassed 3,000, with capacity for millions, nearly a fifth of Seoul's population at the time. The city's civil defense architecture became a living system, woven into the expansion of every new subway line and public facility. The legal requirement for blast resistance and rapid sealing turned the act of building in Seoul into an act of contingency planning, where every wall, vent, and stairwell might one day serve as a barrier between life and sudden violence. Beneath Seoul's daily rush, the subway conceals a second identity, one engineered for crisis. What appears as routine infrastructure is, in fact, a network designed to transform in minutes. At the heart of this system are automated blast doors, steel barriers, each weighing several tons, that can seal off entire stretches of track in less than 2 minutes. Major stations double as loading hubs, with reinforced side corridors and hidden bays, intended for both civilians and emergency supplies. Ventilation shafts, usually tucked behind plain panels, can switch to a sealed, filtered mode, sharing air systems with complexes like Gyeonggi Mall to keep air breathable even if the city above is contaminated. Engineer Lee Jae-ho, whose innovations shaped the Line 2 expansion, explains the stretchboard platform, modular steel decks that lock into place beneath the main platform. In an emergency, these decks create a seamless bridge between train doors and the station floor, allowing wounded passengers or heavy cargo to be loaded in seconds. Lee's technical reports show the stretchboard system was stress-tested for rapid deployment, ensuring the subway remains a working evacuation route during mass casualty events. A 5.6-kilometer logistics corridor runs beneath the city's busiest districts, linking key stations with reinforced tracks and staging areas. In peacetime, these corridors are hidden, sealed behind locked doors or disguised stairways. But when disaster strikes, they become the backbone of evacuation, moving tens of thousands out or bringing supplies in. Every junction, vent, and platform is mapped for dual use, built for speed and redundancy. What seems ordinary is, in reality, a silent survival system beneath the city's feet. A city of millions can rehearse for disaster and still feel unprepared. In March 1995, the sound of sirens swept across Seoul, rising and falling in a strict 45-second pattern. The city's streets emptied as more than 800,000 people moved below ground. Office workers, shopkeepers, students, all following a routine that felt both practiced and surreal. Park Sung-ho was a university student that year. He remembers the sudden hush as traffic lights froze and buses stopped mid-route. You'd be walking with friends, and then the siren would start. Everyone knew what to do, even if we'd never faced a real attack. Park and his classmates filed down the steps of an ordinary subway station, following arrows marked with the civil defense symbol. Underground, the air felt different, cooler, heavier, filled with the low buzz of emergency lighting. The drill lasted less than half an hour, but the memory lingers. Park still recalls the sense of quiet solidarity, the way strangers exchanged nervous glances as the city above paused for a threat that, for a moment, felt uncomfortably close. These rehearsals were not just about following orders, they became a shared ritual, binding the city's residents to a hidden system most would never see in full, but all were expected to trust. A warning siren cuts through the city's noise, and within seconds, a hidden protocol begins. Dr. Hannah Lee, a leading analyst at the Korea Institute for Defense Analyses, describes how the network's sensor grid has evolved. Thousands of seismic and acoustic sensors, now filtered by artificial intelligence, watch for the first sign of attack: artillery shockwaves, missile launches, or even the tremor of a distant blast. Once triggered, the system grants Seoul's residents a 10-minute window, no more. In July 2024, a real alert put this protocol to the test. Automated commands sealed subway blast doors in under 30 seconds. Within those tunnels and shelters, the network can absorb up to 5 million people, a fifth of the city, before the surface becomes unsafe. Classified procedures dictate who can access deeper, restricted levels. The false alarm rate remains below 2%, but the secrecy is deliberate. Public knowledge of exact shelter locations or access points could compromise the system's effectiveness. Even now, most residents move through these spaces daily, unaware of the silent machinery waiting for a signal that, if it comes, will give them only minutes to act. Most never realize what lies beneath their daily commute, a city armored by necessity, not choice. With Seoul still only 55 kilometers from the world's most volatile border, every hidden tunnel is a reminder. Peace here is engineered, not assumed. The ground below remains watchful. What else do we walk over, unseen?